And now, the moment you've all been waiting for. You're tuned in to Tapped Out. Hosted by Brendan Tobin and Sean Levine, only on the BetQL Network.
Welcome into the show. It is Tapped Out here on the BetQL Network. That is Brendan Tobin. Me, I'm the sports machine, Sean Levine, and we have news to talk about when it comes to the UFC. The promotion has now officially, BT, settled with its fighters. So what exactly does this mean? I assume it's good for the employees.
I mean, it's I guess good for the guys who are part of the class action lawsuit. I think it equals out to something like just under 300,000 for all the parties that were part of the class action lawsuit. I think for the fighters, is anything going to change? Not necessarily. I mean, like, look, in professional sports, we've seen things like this before with the NFL, with the CTE, all these types of things. They settle, so they don't have to go to trial with these things. I think we've already seen with some of the things that have come out of this with the negotiation tactics of Dana White, freezing out of contracts, name calling of certain guys, like calling John Jones a scumbag or whatever those things. They don't want to go to trial. They don't want to go on the stand and have to answer these types of questions. We've seen some of the high-level fighters that would have been, called to trial for something like this. So not a surprise that I guess it ultimately does get settled. I think it's a tax write-off anyway, a drop in the bucket for something like Endeavor that now owns the UFC and WWE. So I don't think we should be surprised. I don't know if anything necessarily changes for us as fight fans other than more information of what's already kind of known as a dirty game. So I guess from my standpoint, Sean, I'm a little bit disappointed by knowing that we won't get to know more, but I am happy those fighters, maybe some of them that wouldn't see a payday like that are going to get, kind of a hefty sum.
But Endeavor can still put food on the table, right?
Yeah, they'll be fine.
Okay. Right.
Yeah, they'll be fine.
All right. You mentioned big time fighters. A couple of those guys crossed paths. John Jones and Tom Aspinall was kind of just out of the blue. I don't know if I would call it an impromptu face off because Aspinall kind of asked John for a face off and John was like, nah, I'm good. Is this just stuff that we talk about, or is there actually a chance we ever see these two guys fight each other?
I actually think this is great. I think that, for Tom Aspinall, the whole doing it on Twitter thing and saying that they should strip John Jones, like I said, when that happened, I'm like, that's the wrong way to go about it. But the idea that he's gotten somewhat of a rise out of John, and now that we've gotten the face-to-face, I think is going to get the fans excited because I do think that there is a populace of the fan that says, I don't know, John Jones is going to be 30 whatever when they fight. Tom Aspinall doesn't look like he can be touched as long as his knees stay together.
Right.
So, there could be a little bit of new generation fan that could look to Tom Aspinall and look at the old heads like me or like no one's beating John Jones. And I think that's going to be a fun buildup. I like what they're doing. I still think that Stipe is probably going to be the first one that he goes back. But once he is done with Stipe, I mean, is John really going to ride off into the sunset? Or if there is a little bit of steam behind Tom Aspinall, he fights a Curtis Blades again and they can actually get a real resolution on that one. I think we can build to something here. So I like what they're doing.
6-year age difference for the record. John is 36. Aspinall just turned 30. Although when you talk about, I guess, tread that's been taken off the tires, like, I just don't know how much tread John Jones has left. 36 years old. He's been in the UFC now for 13, 14 years. Had the belt pretty much the entire time. Had to take time off for this and that. Am I crazy to think that if it did go down, let's say within the next year, I think Aspinall would win the fight?
I don't think you're crazy because, yeah, obviously everyone's, we've talked a lot about how the newer generation is having a lot of success in these fights. That a lot of these goats are getting, taken down by the young thing. You look at Volkanovski, Topuria, or any of these guys. So I don't think it's impossible to think that. I think John is definitely at another level and has credentials that nobody has ever had in the sport that we have to respect. But I will be very curious to see, once we get closer and especially I think after probably John has another fight under his belt, if he does fight Stipe first and, what those odds look like, because maybe it is probably the closest we've seen to John, people thinking that John can be beat. And I'm very curious to see what his greatness produces in something like that, because this is, he's not a guy who's never dealt with questions, but certainly, age, injury, guy who looks unstoppable and doesn't seem like he has a very much of a weakness, not a big size difference between it. not a weight class we know a lot about with John Jones. Yeah, I think that there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be back in Aspinall that night.
I like to think of myself as a bit of a scout when it comes to this. Like, I saw Aspinall a few years ago, and I was like, that dude could be champion. I remember when I first saw Gaethje in, what did he fight in? Was it Cage Warriors or was it whatever?
It was World Series of Fighting.
World Series of Fighting. Now I remember like that guy could be champion of the UFC. He's that good. I remember O'Malley when I first, I'm like, that guy's got some potential. Well, I was wrong about Colby Covington. I remember saying as recent as like 6 months ago that I thought Colby Covington was a top 10 fighter in the UFC. And I can admit I was dead wrong about that. Colby's stock is very low after the last time we saw him out. He's calling out Ian Gary. I actually think that makes a lot of sense.
I think this is a very weird thing that's going on between
It's goofy.
them. It's very, very goofy. I think they both look really, really corny in both of these. I
That's fine. Just fight each other then. If you both look like jerk offs and you do, just fight each other.
I guess, but like, all right. So if Ian Gary does beat Colby Covington, then like what? Then he's washed. I don't think Ian Gary gets a ton out of it. I think that Colby honestly probably comes out of it the strongest, and the way that he looked against Leon Edwards this last time around, I don't know how confident anybody's going to be in Colby Covington. Now, look, the man has done a marvelous job following his mentor in Chael Sonnen. The guy finds the conflict of what is going to be the biggest fight. He talks his way into it. He talks himself up. But I don't know, man. There was just a certain level of disappointment that Colby put forth in this last effort against Leon, which everybody kind of thought was an undeserving title shot anyway. I don't know. This whole back and forth with Leon with Ian Gary, and his wife is now making video retorts at Colby Covington. I'm just like, who looks good here? Like who is coming out of this thing and saying, I'm really rooting for those people?
Yeah, I don't think either one of those guys looks good. Chael looks good though. Twist his deal and sex appeal. Just ask him. Connor says that he's fighting Michael Chandler in the summer. You and I have talked about this particular fight now no fewer than 100 times, so I'm pretty much over it until I find out that it's actually going to happen. So I'm going to take the opposite approach. Do you think there's a chance that we never see Connor fight in the UFC again? I mean, how long is this going to drag out?
No, I don't think there's a chance we never see him in the UFC.
You sure?
Again. Yeah, I think he's going to. I think it's ridiculous, though, that we are at this point where it's so much of a headache that they're not on the same page. Like, look, the UFC, we've given them their flowers. This has been a banging, start to the year with the main events that they've had, most of the cards that they've had. I just was in a building, they broke the arena record again at the Kaseya Center, 14 million to see that amazing 299 card. Can't wait for 300, great stacked night of fights, even though they kind of botched the main event thing. But I don't understand this relationship with Connor anymore. It's very strange. And it was interesting. I listened to Connor, I think it was with Mark Raimondi on ESPN, and he was like, if I was with, he mentioned Lorenzo Fertitta in this, and he goes, I feel like if I was with Lorenzo, this would have been hammered out already. I would have already, because he revealed something pretty interesting, that he only has 2 fights left on his deal, and that nobody's really even approached him about an extension, which I guess on the UFC side of things is like, yeah, but we never know when you're going to fight. Like, maybe what's the point? But also, I think it speaks to the divide that seems to be there, because we never really get a good reason from Dana White as to why, other than he's rich. We had the whole weird thing with USADA. Like, they have found every reason under the sun to not have Conor McGregor fight. And here he is telling you, I'd want to fight Michael Chandler, and I want to fight Nate Diaz in the Sphere. And like, they're waffling on that. It's just so strange to me.
It does feel weird. It feels like they're all in on Conor McGregor. At the same time, they're all out on Conor McGregor. Like, so we hear about these fights. He's on tough. We see him talking about, I'm going to fight this guy and that guy. And then the UFC tells us nothing. And it keeps getting moved back. And now we hear he's going to fight Nate Diaz for the trilogy. Now we hear he's going to fight at the Sphere. At some point, they're going to tell us Conor McGregor is fighting this guy at this time. And until then, well, let's face it, he's Conor McGregor. We're still going to talk about him. But damn it, I want some actual concrete fight news like this. Tabora took out Tai Tuivasa in round 1 last Saturday night. Sounds like you bet on Tai Tuivasa.
Well, I love Tai Tuivasa.
I love,
of course. I was hoping, that his recent stretch was just, he's taking on a lot of good guys. When you lose to once you lose to Marcin Tabora, who's good, but he's not like the creme de la creme of the division. Now all of a sudden you got to start worrying about Ty. Like, all right, what is? I don't think he's going to get cut because, like, man, we've seen some losing streaks lately. And Tai Tuivasa is just one of those guys. He's got a gimmick. If Tai Tuivasa is on a fight card, you're going to be interested in seeing what he does. But yeah, this was a guy, I think, after, he had his initial adversity, he bounced back. You're wondering, all right, could this guy win a championship? Could he pull the Derek Lewis where he gets all the way? Now it just seems a long way away. Like, it seems like there's a blueprint to beat him very easily. And that's what's a bit of a disappointment with Ty.
You know who his career has been a lot like? Your guy, George Masvidal, where up and down and back and forth, then been in promotion for a long time. And then Masvidal had that crazy year where he won those 3 fights in a row. And then all of a sudden, he's one of the most popular fighters and he's fighting for the belt. Tai Tuivasa, like a year and a half ago, remember, he had that crazy 3-fight win streak where we thought maybe this guy could be champion. And now we're talking about, I don't think they're going to cut him. So, yeah, life moves at you quick. And Tai Tuivasa, at this point, I think he's still going to stay in the promotion. I mean, if they let Tony Ferguson hang around, if they let Donald Cerrone hang around that long, nothing's going to happen to Bam Bam.
I mean, like, you guys could look right now, like as the UFC's been very, very hot as of late, and like we said, we've given them their flowers. But like the next few main events, like we got Amanda Hebos, Rose Namajunas main eventing coming up this week. You got Aaron Blanchfield and some woman I've never even heard of, quite frankly. Not even going to like lie to you guys. Brendan Allen, Chris Curtis is, it's a late change because there was an injury, but these are good fights. But like, it tells you why Tai Tuivasa was main eventing this last week is they have a lot of fight cards to fill, and I just have a hard time believing, like, unless this dude is, I almost feel like the losing streak has to get like doubled for him to be in danger of getting cut.
What about O'Malley? So in the cage, he won his last fight, looked pretty good, and then he calls out Ilya Taporia, and now he's saying that he wants Merab. What fight do you think makes the most sense next for the Sugar Show?
I think Merab. First of all, I don't think it's crazy that he beats Merab. I just want to see Merab get his shot.
Would you take him even money to beat Merab?
Yeah, I probably would.
Really?
Would. Yeah, I would take. I would be curious, and I would say my guess would be by the time we get there, I think Sugar's going to have a flip on those odds anyway. Like, I think that I think people are going to buy more into him the way he talks into it. When they see the size difference, definitely that's going to be one of those fights where, like, if O'Malley is a dog, like, the dog will definitely probably sway me on that night, but I don't think it's an impossible fight for Sean to win.
My rationale is just that Merab looked so good against Petr Yan. I mean, dominated.
Mm-hmm.
10-8 rounds, won all 5. It got like they were in completely different leagues. And then Sean O'Malley, you could argue, lost against Petr Yan. Now, technically he won because that's what the stats tell us. But if I'm just using that MMA math, I think that Merab might put it on Sean O'Malley. I'd love to see the fight. I hope that's the one that does go down. All right, we do have more George Masvidal news for you. He's going to be boxing. Nate Diaz. Is that in Miami?
No, it's in L.A.
It's in L.A. All right. Well, sorry it's not in your backyard. That's for the Happy Punch promotion that's coming up on June 1st. And then you mentioned this upcoming card, the main event on Saturday night, Amanda Hebos versus Thug Rose. Thug Rose needs to start winning some fights too. Again, I'm not saying she's in danger of getting cut or anything like that, but remember that run she went on, right? Where she was having these unbelievable fights. She won those 3 fights in a row. She was beating Wei Lee, and then she's lost the last 2 times out to Fiorello and Carla Esparza. Do you think Thug Rose beats Amanda Hebos Saturday night?
This is one of those where I'm playing it by odds. Like, I don't know if she should be the favorite that she is right now, because right now Hebos is like a 2-1 dog on this. And I kind of like that because she is a dangerous fighter. She can finish fights. And I'm also curious, it's a flyweight fight. Rose taking those type of shots, with a dangerous striker. We've seen, like, Rose will throw down. We know that. I mean, she'll throw down. She'll put herself in danger. So those are that's the type of thing where, like, I think this could either, like, be really great for Rose because you could kind of get her back to her bread and butter and she can, throw free and easy, or can she really do any damage at this weight class? Because, her greatness was at straw. This is something that has to be known. And I just think that with Amanda, I kind of like the value at 2-1 there. I feel like there's something there for that night. She's a dangerous striker. She's not like the most complete fighter in the world. Like, she's been a little bit up and down with her record, but she can finish you. You know, she can do some pretty gnarly stuff in there. She, you know, wins by, you know, wheel kick last time around. So I think that's going to be that's definitely going to be an interesting thing to check out on this for her. And you know, she's been a little bit up and down in weight classes too, but I'm curious in this matchup. I just like the value there.
Rose can finish you too now. Rose can kick your head right off
Oh
your
my
body.
God, yeah.
Speaking of fighting, coming up next, I fight you right here on Tapped Out.
Sean Levine will step into the cage with Brendan Tobin in Are You Gonna Fight Me?
I'm gonna fight your ass!
Here on Tapped Out.
That's right, fight me like a man.
Only on the BetQL network.
You know the rules. I want a good, clean fight. When I tell you to break, I want you to step back at my command and break. Now go back to the corner and come out fighting at the bell.
And welcome back into Tapped Out. That's Brendan Tobin. I'm the sports machine, Sean Levine. Two men, friends, about to fight. Jose Aldo is fighting Jonathan Martinez, my guy, Jose Aldo, at UFC 302. You're going to fight me if I say I would love to see an Aldo-McGregor rematch.
I mean, because you're hoping that like it goes back to your GOAT debate, like he can beat him. He
I
can
want
finally
Aldo
get
to knock
one.
him out in 9 seconds.
When's the last time he fought at featherweight? Like, first of all, where is this weight class happening? Like, is he going up to 155? What? Because Conor McGregor looks like he's, what weight class is he? I don't even know. Is he like 185 at this point? We don't even know.
Any idea, bro? Does he? Does his scale?
No, and nobody does. So, like, I don't even think it's possible to do a rematch for that. Like, if it was just but let's just say it could happen. Let's just say, hey, Conor did a bunch of blow and got down to 145 again, and you could have it, and he wouldn't test positive, but he just did it for the weight cutting purposes. Would I want to see it? Just for you, buddy, sure, but not really, because I saw it and he got knocked out in 13 seconds.
That's just because you hate Jose Aldo Jr. for whatever reason.
I really don't. I don't hate Jose Aldo. You just have a love for him that is very admirable. Good for you.
Yeah, he's the best featherweight of all time. He held the belt for like 7 years. Sean Strickland, in other news, always in the news.
By the way, he's closer to not being in the top 5 of featherweights of all time than he is the greatest featherweight.
Oh, stop that. You at first I thought you were serious. I was like, shut up, dude. Shut up. Oh, shut up. Sean Strickland in the news once again. You're going to fight me if I say, I think I overrated that guy. He never fights for a belt again. I just think he had a perfect night against Israel Adesanya. Not that he's a bad fighter, but he's not a champion.
No, I definitely disagree with you. I mean, look, the DDP fight was close, man. I mean, and he had this point that I thought was pretty sound recently where he said, why did Izzy get to go right in and fight Pereira again? He got knocked the bleep out against him. And I basically won a card that Dana White said he thought that I won against DDP, and I don't get them rematch. He gets to go to Izzy again.
Yeah, that's an easy answer. Look at, sorry, Sean. Look
at
not
recent resume. Yeah, but not recent resume. Like if we're going like he's beaten Stylebender.
Yeah.
That was a very close fight. I get it. Like I think if I'm the UFC, I want the grudge match because there's a lot of heat there with Izzy. But I don't know, man. I found that one a little bit. I felt Sean had some fair points there.
While we're on the topic, now that we have the main event of UFC 300, which is Alex Pereira, the aforementioned, versus Jamal Hill, why was that not the rematch with Izzy? Was he not offered? Did it not the timing not make sense? Is Jamal Hill Dana's guy? Like everybody's questioning that main event. Nobody would have questioned a main event that was Pereira versus Izzy again.
I just think that the reason was I think the reason that he wasn't offered it is because I don't know if Izzy wants to fight Pereira again. I think that he got the ending that he perfectly probably wanted, which is it ended. I knocked him out. It doesn't really get better for Izzy at that regard. And I think like we've talked about this up and down with how much of a mental game that was fighting Pereira. So I think that's probably the reason is like he's sticking around at middleweight. And I think we already know Pereira has not got an interest in going back down. He is the champ right now. I was just surprised by it because I didn't know Jamal Hill was going to be physically ready for it. That's the only thing that surprised me about it.
Of all the fights on the UFC 300 card, I think most people, including myself, are looking forward to the BMF fight, Gaethje versus Max Holloway. You going to fight me? Is there a different one you're looking forward to more?
That's pretty good. I mean, I honestly thought that was going to be the main event going into this one.
Max called it the people's main event, and that's what it is.
I agree with that.
I do love, now that we have the entire card, though, it's going to be like 6 full hours of great fights. Like, if you're a fight fan, get comfortable in your recliner because there's going to be a lot of bets to make.
Man, you know what one I'm looking forward to? There's a couple that I'm looking forward to that are not as much as Gaethje Holloway. That's number one. But I definitely am looking forward to Calvin Kattar versus Aljamain and seeing what Aljo does at featherweight.
Who you got? I think
I'm gonna go Kattar.
Me too.
I think I'm gonna go Kattar. I think I'm gonna go Kattar, and then it curtain jerks like it's the first fight, but Davidson Figueiredo versus Cody Garbrandt. I'm very interested to see. First of all, Figueiredo move up, and then Cody's been fighting well. Like I think that would be one of the great stories about a guy. We talk all the time about write-offs of guys, and where this guy's chin seemed like it was cooked. He goes down to flyweight. He's looked really good his last 2 times around, man. That was a nasty knockout of Brian Kelleher. And I root for the guy. Like, look, we got a chance to have him on the show a little bit before that. I was like, man, I like this Cody Garbrandt. I hope that he does have it. It's a tough ask because Davidson is dangerous, and it's a wonder if he's going to even be more dangerous at 135. So it's, and there's a reason Cody is the dog in that one right now. But I just think that would be such a cool story because, like, look, man, this is what is Cody right now? He's 32.
Yeah.
32 is like, there's guys winning the belt for the first time at 32. That's usually the prime of guys. You have that like 32 to 35 window. He just got the champion super early. And
you think there's a second act for Cody Garbrandt?
Maybe.
I would take. Now, I hope I'm wrong. I love Cody Garbrandt. I know you don't think I do, but his fight versus Dominic Cruz is one of my most favorite fights ever. Period. Anytime. I don't care. It was for the belt. Like you said, he won it that young and everything. I just think his chin is gone. Can he still throw? Absolutely. Can he still, have a great, crazy comeback knockout win? We've seen it. But also, man, if he gets touched, he goes down. So I'd be shocked. Like, you think there's a chance Cody can fight for the belt again one day? You're nuts, dude.
I don't think I'm nuts. Because, first of all, he's got a name. So that's always the first thing. Like, are they going to be interested in you fighting for the championship?
Great tattoos.
Okay. He's got a name. This is a kid like they thought was going to be the star of one of the faces of the UFC. Like, essentially Sean O'Malley before Sean O'Malley, and did it faster than Sean O'Malley. It's just like it's a Shark Tank of a weight class. So there's certainly some adversity and some tough things that he's going to have to go to. And like his wins are against Trevin Jones and Brian Kelleher. I'm not saying like he's gone out there beating Song Yadong. Like he's got some proving to do, but beating the former flyweight champion, who is a dangerous striker, man, would that change your mind at all? Or will you be like, nah, you beat a flyweight?
Yeah, he beat a flyweight.
You're a bastard. Like, it won't sound like there's no pleasing you.
No, it's not. That's not it. And I just calls it like I sees it, man. And I sees that chin has been gone for a while.
Who would be the guy he has to beat at bantamweight? Like, would you give him any prayer against Sean O'Malley?
No. Would you?
I'd be interested in the odds. There would be a number where I'd be like, I'm gonna throw a little something on him.
I'm definitely watching the fight and I'm betting on it, and I would love to see it, but I'd be shocked if somehow Cody could get back to the guy that he was 3 years ago. And Sean O'Malley is absolutely in his prime. The whole reason we got to talking about this was because of Max versus Gaethje for the BMF. If Max wins, I think he fights for the title next. You gonna fight me?
Now, when you say fights for the title, do you mean he fights Islam, or you think he fights Topuria? Because this is a lightweight fight. So do you think? Because I honestly think he's Willy Wonka at that point. He could go wherever he wants.
Damn, good point. I don't know what I mean. Whichever the promotion decided was better for him, I just think he gets another shot at the belt.
I don't want to see him versus Topuria though.
Why?
I want to see that fight. I just think it's
that's what you do want to see. I thought you said you didn't want to see it.
No. I just want to see that fight. I think it's a great fight. I get it. Like, look, Volkanovski's got the, if I deserve the rematch at featherweight, I get that. But I think I quite frankly think Volk should take some time, and I think that would line up with Max getting a chance. And plus, if they're gonna do this whole thing in Spain, man, you gotta have a really rocking fight. God, that would be such a great buildup. And I think that Topuria's got a little bit too, where not many guys can make themselves vicious fighting Max Holloway because he's so beloved. But I think Topuria's got that in him. I don't know, him versus Islam, it'd be cool, but I don't want to see who wants to see Max Holloway get the one-legged takedown, and then he's got to be up against the cage for 3 minutes. See, that sucks.
I think Max can beat all these guys. I mean, based on not necessarily him recently, he's been fine, but his entire body of work, I've never really, even the Volkanovski fights, I've never really seen Max get his ass kicked. He's never been knocked down.
I'm trying to think of like even like who's a matchup that Max has had that's even similar to Islam, because he was supposed to fight Khabib. Remember, he was supposed to go up.
That would do it.
And he was supposed to fight Khabib, and that's how Khabib ended up winning the title, because he was supposed to fight Max Holloway after the Tony fight, of course, fell through for the gazillionth time, and they wouldn't let Max continue to cut, and so they end up he fights Al Iaquinta to win the title.
Al look good.
Trying to think, like, who's he? I mean, like, Volkanovski's definitely got grappling to him, but were pretty much striking affairs.
Arnold Allen's a good. That happened, that whole Max Holloway cutting weight, and then
I know
is big, and
he was forever, dude.
Crazy. That is crazy that actually happened that way. I'm curious if you're going to pick Max or Gaethje. Max is a big underdog in the BMF fight coming up in a little while. I'm going to ask BT, is that dog going to bark? We'll talk some underdogs in some upcoming UFC fights. You'll remember back to UFC 200, which was supposed to be John Jones versus DC. We were supposed to get all these awesome fights, and then we got some fights, right? We saw Mark Hunt and Brock Lesnar, and we saw Anderson Silva out there against DC. But I love the gold mat. You're going to fight me if I say, I want to see the gold mat back at UFC 300.
Gold mat was terrible, dude. I don't know what you're talking about.
You hate the gold mat?
Nobody liked the gold mat.
Love the gold mat.
What are you talking about? We were all making fun of the gold mat back in the day. You're a gold mat guy? You're that person?
I'm not gold mat guy for every fight. I'm typical black mat, put you Bud Light or whatever it is at the Monster Energy drink in the middle. I'm saying for the big ones, I'm gold mat guy.
Can I tell you one thing? Let me just say to the UFC, it's much with all the sponsors on the mat. Can I just say,
isn't it?
Like, you remember, like, it was a hilarious thing when they tried to sell us on, we don't want, Condom Depot on somebody's shorts. We can't have this. We need to clean up our act. We want a clean look. I go to this UFC 299. It looks like NASCAR on that damn octagon. Everything is sponsored. The ring posts are sponsored. The mat is sponsored. Each side of the octagon is sponsored. What's next? Just a little diamond in the fence? Like, I mean, enough. Like, everything is covered in that thing. Like,
I know you say that jokingly, but you know that if you really wanted to, you could pay. When I say you, everybody out there listening right now, you have the ability to pay to get your name put on the octagon, like on the mat. That is an actual thing.
It's crazy. It's so many sponsors that are going on there. I was like, remember, because they're like, oh yeah, they had this whole thing that came out with Bud Light becoming the sponsor, and I was like, oh, that's nice, but Monster's still like the sponsor. But now if I'm Monster, I'm like, hey, what's up with 900 other drinks in the middle of our octagon? I know we're the center, but not really, because you got some big sponsor logos on there.
It is a little busy now that you pointed out.
Very busy.
Mike Tyson is going to fight Jake Paul. Jake Paul, heavy favorite in that one. He is a minus 360. You're going to fight me if I say, I don't know who, but somebody's getting their ass knocked out in that fight.
Yeah, I think somebody's definitely going to get knocked out. I'm worried about Mike Tyson going into this because he's old. And
that would be sad. In all honesty, if he gets knocked out cold, kind of like we saw Tyson or Francis Ngannou a couple of weeks ago, that'd be kind of sad and scary.
I think it would be sad and scary. The ultimate thing is that he knocks out Jake Paul and everybody's really, really happy. I just wonder how much giddy up does a guy have who's going to be 58 years old whenever this happens. I've seen some of the video. Look, he looks still ferocious, but I always got to take these Instagram reels with a grain of salt because there's jump edits and there's, you wonder, like, how is he feeling after he goes balls to the wall like that for 60 seconds? And his trainer says, Rafael Cordero says all the right things after this. So, look, man, I'm rooting for Mike Tyson. I want him to knock out Jake Paul. But I remember watching Evander Holyfield go up against Vitor, and he was 60. And he looked physically good with the body physically looked good, but he just didn't have the reaction time. So I'm just worried about that. Other than the fact that it is Mike Tyson, like, is he going to laugh in the face of Jake Paul when he hits him with a right hand? That's the only.
When was Tyson Lennox Lewis the last time around? Like
2004.
So we're talking, and that's the last time that Mike Tyson was Mike Tyson,
and he wasn't even Mike Tyson. Like, that was Mike Tyson who they had to like find. Remember, like they fought that in Memphis because Mike Tyson couldn't even get a damn license in some places.
So we're talking about Tyson hasn't been Tyson since Holyfield.
I would say that's probably like. You saying that he was, and that was 2002, so it's even longer ago.
Goodness.
Mike Tyson being Mike Tyson, the last time Mike Tyson was heavyweight champion of the world was 1996.
Whoa. That puts it in some serious context, dude. Like, he's not the same fighter, although it would be awesome to see him put Jake Paul on his ass. All right, that's it for You Gonna Fight Me. Coming up in our final segment, let's talk underdogs. There's a lot of them that I like. Does the dog bite? Right here on the BetQL Network.
We're back with more Tapped Out with Brendan Tobin and Sean Levine on the BetQL Network.
Final segment here of Tapped Out. BT and the Sports Machine talking some fighting. Let's talk some dogs. You know I got plenty of those upstairs. Does the dog bite? I like a lot of these underdogs. Do you? Saturday night, we got Thug Rose taking on Amanda Hebos. Can I talk you into the underdog at plus 200 Hebos?
Yeah, definitely can talk me into the dog there. In fact, I'm curious. I'm going to bring up the method odds right now. You got Amanda Hebos by KO. I mean, plus 1,000. I mean, like I'm kind of, and then if you got her by sub at plus 600, her winning by decision is about 5-1. Thug Rose winning by KO's plus 155. I don't know, man.
That's it.
Yeah. I don't know. I think this is a big time resume one. Obviously, Rose has been to the heights. You know, we just saw Joanna Jędrzejczyk get into the Hall of Fame. This is the woman who basically knocked that woman off of the pedestal. She was the queen. This woman took the crown. She's awesome, but it has been it's been a little bit. It's been some time. So I get it based on resume, but I think that there's enough questions for me to throw a little something on the dog that night and see if something goes there.
I'm with you. That dog Hebos is barking because Rose, yeah, I'm not sure. She took the Boogie Woman from the Boogie Woman, but I'm not sure that Rose is that same fighter after back-to-back losses. All right, you talked about Figgy versus Garbrandt. Right now, you can get Cody Garbrandt at plus 280. Very popular fighter, so get in where you fit in. Like, if you actually want to bet him, if you want to bet him by method, maybe you think that right hand knocks out Figueiredo, I'd bet it now because by the time the fight comes around, Cody's going to go down, probably something like plus 220 at BetMGM. Are you willing to play the underdog Cody Garbrandt at plus 280?
I absolutely am. I'm riding. I'm drinking the Cody Garbrandt Kool-Aid for sure. You know, Davidson coming up to bantamweight. You know, he gets the win against Rob Font recently. Cool. This guy's been a former champion. He's been a guy who's had trouble making weight. He's probably been wanting to be in this place for a while. So I'm sure you're gonna have a happy Davidson Figueiredo. But I don't know. I'm betting the Cody Garbrandt resurgence. And like, you know, some Davidson, we've talked about this number. If you guys, sneaky old. He's 36.
Is he?
36 years old. Smaller fighters. While Cody may have more high mileage of known fights, because you know Davidson's big thing is the Moreno rivalry. You know, it's a little long in the tooth, and you're telling me I get Cody Garbrandt peeking and sneaking at around 3-1. I'm going no love, dude. I'm going no love.
I'm sprinkling both sides. I'm going to piss you off. I'll take Cody because the odds are just too good at plus 280, but I also don't think Cody has a chin. What can I get Figueiredo by knockout? Because I think if Figgy is going to win the fight, I think he puts him out cold.
I probably would say you're going to get that at like when the method odds come out. You'll probably get that at like 250, plus 250, something like that.
I'll take it. All right. The dog that I love at UFC 300 is not going to surprise you at all. One of my favorite fighters. Dude, Bronx is an underdog right now at BetMGM at plus 185 against Arman Tsarukyan. I'm betting the plus 185. I'm betting him by sub. I'm betting him by knockout. What am I missing here? You know how much I love Charles Oliveira, and I'm not just saying this. I think he should be favored to win the fight.
This is the classic Dustin Poirier versus Benoit Saint Denis, is it not? Like you're talking about a guy who always feels like we talk about, you know, guys who are always misjudged by the odds makers. I don't know if there's a guy who's more the poster child for that than Charles Oliveira. Like we are always very perplexed by what his odds are, why they've picked him. You know, like it's pretty ridiculous. You go to, he's got one blemish recently, and it was to Islam Makhachev, and you know, Tsarukyan gave Makhachev a little bit something when they fought back when he was 22 years old. But I'm with you, man. I mean, you're giving me Charles Oliveira as an underdog. Too good for me to let up.
And he had the belt for so long, defended that several times, and I think he's going to get a shot at the belt if he wins this one. So everything on the line. Like, Oliveira, as confident as I was in Dustin Poirier beating Benoit Saint Denis, and I love the comparison, look at all the fighters on Dustin Poirier's resume. Do you think he gives a damn about some up-and-comer Benoit Saint Denis? I'd say the same thing for Charles Oliver. Look at who that guy's fought. You think he gives a damn about some Arman Sarukian? No.
Well, here's the other thing too. Like, we looked at the Benoit Saint Denis and I was like, yes, he was beating guys, but man, that was a big jump up. And all right, Sarukian's been around for a hot minute. The only thing you can say with Charles that's a little bit that I would say is even less of a question mark with Dustin. At least with Dustin, you could have said, hey, I'm worried about him coming off a head kick KO. What's his response going to be? How is he going to – and he responded how Dustin Poirier – like, you're writing off Charles Oliveira. Why? Because he got arm triangled by Islam?
What am I missing?
What am I missing? Yeah, they've both beaten Beneil. Okay, they both knocked out Beneil Dariush. Who's the next guy on his resume? Because he lost to Gamrot. I don't know, man. I don't get it. I think it's a little bit too soon. He's got to show me. And if you're going to give me, I'm not saying he can't do it, but to have him as an overwhelming favorite that night seems a little silly.
Wow, we're on the same side. That makes me even more confident. I'm emptying the piggy bank that night on Du Bronx. We talked about the BMF fight. Real quick, your early thoughts, because we're still like a month away from the actual fight. Gaethje or Max? Max the underdog at 2-1.
This is one of those where like I might just lean dog just because it's Max Holloway. You know, like that's where I'm going. I would say nobody's been looking as good as Justin Gaethje lately. Like he is so hard to fight. He breaks you down. He will chop you down like a tree with those leg kicks, and then is just vicious. He's a vicious puncher. We've seen what he's done to, you know, the likes of Tony Ferguson. Basically changed Tony Ferguson's career. I mean, Tony Ferguson was, you know, still that guy, and then he fought Justin Gaethje and basically turned him into a different fighter. Now
hasn't won since.
And you know, okay, so he wasn't able to do that to Dustin, but a little bit different. You know, he got him with a head kick. Fazeev was giving it to him and then just couldn't hang, couldn't stand up to it, even though it was a great fight. And Max doesn't really just have the submission game that it takes to get to him. So I think that Gaethje is a rightful favorite. It's his weight class. We haven't seen Max at lightweight since losing to Dustin Poirier. But I also get Max Holloway at that kind of a number, and you never really get him at that number. So maybe he's got something that others don't, because we could see how good he is at boxing, how fast he is, and it's a little bit of a different puzzle. But I'm very, very curious. This is by far one of the best matchups the sport could make. I think it's very, very even. But I'm getting Max Holloway as a dog. I'd roll with that.
Max has a better chin than anybody that Gaethje's faced, and probably better head movement also. Like, you can talk about his offensive boxing, but man, defense, like that guy, like I keep saying, he's never been knocked. It's crazy. He's been in the promotion this long. It's not that he's never been knocked out, which he has. He's never been knocked down in the cage. And talk about Max Holloway. And
we have seen Gaethje. Like, we've seen Gaethje. Like, it's
couple times.
Been a while, but we've seen Gaethje be beat. We've seen him get knocked out by Dustin Poirier. You know, these are early ons, and I think everybody would agree that it's a different Justin Gaethje. Like, he's definitely improved, and that he is, you know, gotten better and has been to the depths and bounced back. But, you know, this is also Max Holloway. This is a bona fide Hall of Famer he's getting in there with. And, you know, when you get a number like that with Max Holloway, I think it's too tasty to turn down.
As far as the ladies go, if I made you play a dog, which dog's more likely to bark on UFC 300? Holly Holm against Kayla Harrison plus 350 for the Preacher's Daughter, or Yan Xiaonan at plus 275 against Zhang Weili?
I would go. I would go with Yan Xiaonan. I would go with her. I just think that you know, even though you know Kayla's, you know, coming off a little bit of adversity in the PFL, you know, Holly, I don't think Holly's got anything for her. You know, I think this is a woman in Kayla Harrison. The only thing we really have to go on is, well, she's got to make bantamweight. And I don't know if you've seen the photos of Kayla Harrison. She looks incredible. I mean, like, Liz looks like she has been taking this weight cut very seriously. And is honestly, like, it's crazy to see the body, what it's turned into, because the arms now are like bigger than her head.
Yeah.
But I think she's coming into this with an absolute mission. We have talked about the women's division needing a star. She can be that. And I think that her getting a chance to go, to me, I think that Holly's going to be in a world of trouble for this one. I think that Kayla's coming in. And I think, strawweight, we've seen with these title fights at strawweight, man, these things can be a coin flip. They can be tough to predict.
The only underdog that I really don't think can win at UFC 300 is Cody Brundage. Like, I don't think that he can go out there and beat Bo Nickel. But besides that, you could pretty much talk me into every single underdog. Last thoughts.
Yeah, I wanted to get your thoughts on this. So, like, this was a controversy going around when everybody said this came out, and they're like, oh, Bo Nickel's on the main card. That's crazy to have the likes of Yuri Prohashka, Rakic on the prelims, or Cater, Sterling, or even Figueiredo, or, so do you have a problem with Bo Nickel being on the main card? Because I would say, just in my quick thought, I do not. I think he's obviously a budding star. We're going to set our watch as to how fast is that fight, but that's kind of the gimmick. Like, that's what we want to see.
He's the new blood. Why do we need to keep going back to, why did everybody, maybe we'll get Brock Lesnar UFC 300. Well, maybe we'll get John Jones. Why do you guys want to see all those old timers? Like, this guy's going to be champion, I think, talking about Bo Nickel within the next year and a half. I'm all about him on the main card. That's it for the show. For our producer, Jake Noaker, and my co-host, Brendan Tobin, I'm the sports machine, Sean Levine, and we'll talk to you next week right here on Tapped Out.